Great. Wow, part of me still wants to just sit out there and experience this. This is somewhat new to me. I do speak at different groups and organizations, but it's all still kind of new to me. I'm mostly in Asia now, and I want to thank everybody for the invitation here, and it's just so wonderful to experience what you folks are doing here. I moved here to San Diego in 1976 and went to Balboa Park and saw some hippie musicians out there and pulled out my guitar, and we started a band called Heart Space. I don't know if anybody knows that, but that was a few decades ago. Thank you. All right. But it was great. We were simple times, and we wanted to just do a positive message with our music, and it was a big deal around here for a few years, and we had a lot of fun with it. Soon I got more work in the music business and moved up to the Bay Area, and then I've resettled into Santa Barbara. I was in the music business for 18 years with EMI, and it was a great run through the 90s. Then we get to about 2000, 2001, and Napster comes out, and music becomes free, and the record industry collapsed. And I was fit a great resume. I've produced over 125 records, and I sent out my resumes to every label there is in LA and got nothing. I'm too old. So here I am, I'm 52. I didn't know I was retiring. I had a great run. What am I going to do? And I did have a little money that I got at the end, so I could survive a couple years. And before this happened, in the mid-90s, I decided to sponsor a child. I was looking through a Buddhist magazine, and you could sponsor a Tibetan child, so I chose a girl, and for 5 years, sent money, and we exchanged cards and letters. So in 2002, a group of sponsors decided to go over and meet their child and invited me, and I'd never gone over that part of the world, and a little nervous about it, and didn't really have the money. I was getting a little concerned, and a few friends and my mother and others pitched in and sent me over there to go meet this child. So I'm going to go to northern India, Dharamsala, right at the home of the Dalai Lama, and meet this child. And I did, and it changed my life. And I really thought I was going one time, coming back and hitting it here and figuring out what I'm going to do. Well, I met her and other children there. Many of them were Tibetan refugees that literally walked over the Himalaya, a 2-month journey. And they took me to the refugee center, and that's where I got hooked. So this is where all the kids and the women come after walking over the Himalaya. It's a desperate journey, and they only leave because they want their freedom. And that's why there's so many Tibetans in northern India, and that's why the Dalai Lama has a government in exile there. So I got involved with this refugee center, and we started doing programs there and bringing musicians in and just trying to lift their spirits. And it really affected me a lot, and a lot of the kids gave me their little resume, and they wanted to go to school. So I come back to America on my trip, and I go to my first lunch with friends, and I showed them these letters, and 3 friends right there said, well, I'll sponsor this one, I'll sponsor this one. Okay, all right, well, that's how that works. And so I decided after that to go back the following year, and I leave in 2 weeks to go back to Nepal. It'll be my 29th time since then. Yeah, I can't believe that either. I went 5 times in 1 year. It's the world's longest commute. It is. But it did really affect me on many levels, and then I became to where I feel like I'm kind of a caretaker of something that's growing here. I don't really know quite what I'm doing. I'm learning as I go along. But I did start a sponsorship project. I was going to do an alternative business, start importing jewelry and things from Nepal, and I had that going for a few years called Aura Imports. And that went good till 2008 when everything collapsed, and all of a sudden nobody's buying anything, and I understand that. But then I started sponsoring these kids, and I just added the term sponsorship project to it, and put up a website and started posting kids and getting people involved. And now I'm happy to say in one school we have 140 kids now. So, no, thank you. So when I went in 2002, the first year, I went with a group, and the group wanted to shop, and I wanted to go to temples. And every time we went by a temple, I wanted to go in, but there was shopping. So I White lie, one morning, I'm too ill to go. You guys have fun. You guys go out. And I looked out the window, the bus left, and I immediately walked outside to a taxi. He said, where do you want to go? I said, take me anywhere. Anywhere. Just take me where I'm supposed to go. This is it's so amazing. So I'm taken to this real ancient part of the city, walking around these beautiful sites, ancient locations, beautiful people, and I'm just walking around, and somebody grabs my hand. It's a little boy. He's 12 years old. He says his name's Shyam, and he wants to practice his English. Could he hang out with me for the day? And I say, yeah, I want to get some souvenirs for friends and stuff, so he takes me to his friend's shop here and there. But I learned more about this young man, and he really wants to go to school, and he's in child labor. He showed me where he worked. He worked in the basement of a hotel, and he cleaned pots. And he would look up at the window and see the kids walking by with their shoes and socks for school. And he wanted to go to school real bad. Wasn't a big deal, didn't take much money. I funded him to go to school for a few years. Then when he got older to get into college, I found a dear friend who actually sponsored his college education. So by 2005 and 6, he wanted me to come to the village where he came from. His vision was to start a school or some sort of teaching at his village, which has never had a school ever. And he didn't want to have happen to the kids there that's happened to him. And he invited me out, but there's this minor problem of a civil war at the time. From 95 to 2005, it was the Maoists and the King army in Nepal. And in the areas where I go now, it was real bad. More bad than anybody knows because nobody reports on it. And it was a real tough time. I checked with the State Department. They would provide Marines to a certain section, but after that, I was on my own. So I didn't really want to go. So President Carter came in 2006 and negotiated a deal with the UN, and they signed a peace accord in 2006, and bam, I go out to this village. I didn't know what I was getting into. We get into, at that time, a little taxi, and it's 16 hours through the Himalaya into the Terai. Terai is the flat area base of Mount Everest. It's the flat land going towards India. So it's not any place tourists go at all. It's kind of, some say, the armpit of Nepal. It's just really it's a hard Indian-like land. And there's a number of tribes there, and lots of trouble. And we did, for a few years, we were getting stopped sometimes, soldiers, and checking my stuff, and who am I, who do I work for, we want your camera, those kinds of things. Other times, we've had our vehicles turned over and lit on fire. So there was a few things, but nothing ever physical to me, and it wasn't anything against us as much as within themselves. But anyway, I get out to this village, it's 16 hours, then we got to walk 2 more, because there's no more roads, and we cross 2 rivers, and there's pit vipers. That's the number one issue there, is the snake. So we finally get in this village, and I'm the first foreigner they've ever seen. And there's about 1,000 people in this village. It's called Tintale. Tintale in Nepali means 3 levels. Teen is number 3, Tale is levels. And they have a river area, and they have a little cliff, and they have the land where they grow their food, and they have the foothills of the Himalaya. And that's all part of their area. So I go there, and for those who want to join me later, I'll play some videos of that time. I'm actually got a compilation that runs the whole 7 years of me going there. Kind of quickly through them, and you can watch some of the kids progress and stuff like this. So again, this is all before anything to do with Playing for Change. So you might wonder, how does that come into this picture? So I'm coming back here, I'm selling jewelry to kind of sponsor more kids and try to help out there. And the producer of Playing for Change, Mark Johnson, is in this audience. He comes by and buys some jewelry. He says, "Hi, my name's Mark. I'm a filmmaker. I got this feeling I want to make this music video around the world, but I don't know anything about Asia. Do you know the area?" "Yeah, I know it, in the back of my hand." "Well, I'd like to have you guide our film crew to shoot a movie there." "Great." And as LA goes, I didn't hear anything for 6 months, and you totally forget about it. I get a call. "This is Mark, William, are you ready?" "Ready for what?" We're going in 2 weeks. "In 2 weeks, you're going in 2 weeks, huh?" And pays very low, and there's no time off. We got to work 21 days in a row. And I said, "Great, it sounds exciting." So I go ahead of time, and they arrive in Kathmandu, and there's an MTV film crew, all young people, 5 people, and my duty was to pick them up in a Jeep and take them all through this world and pull musicians out of the mountains and record them, as you can see in some of these videos. And this was in the first film. So that was where we started connecting, and then when we started the school out in the village, I decided to ask Mark, hey, could we start a music program here? Because they were doing some in Africa. So they had 3 or 4 programs going already in Africa. And they sponsored a program. We hired teachers. They basically give me money to hire teachers and buy instruments, and we started a program. And that was so successful with these kids, particularly the ones that have experienced a family member lost in the war. There wasn't anything that did anything to lift them more than playing music. If we go in there with religion, it don't work. There's too many tribes. We go in there with politics, oh my God, it's totally dysfunctional. We go in with music, no problem. And it became clear to us that music became our religion, because that was one we could go in and just work with anybody on any level easily. And there's so many things that's come out of this that I've learned. It's difficult to kind of prioritize them, but I'm now on the ride of my life because I'm kind of committed to these things, and they're growing on their own, and they start connecting with other artists and big names and the United Nations, and we got Yoko Ono involved, providing John Lennon footage. We got Rita Marley providing Bob Marley footage. We got Bono from U2 volunteering. And who expects that? Who draws up a plan like that? So I'm going in 2 weeks, and this is the biggest one yet. And I'm very excited about it. I have a film crew coming with me from Patagonia, and they're going to be doing a documentary on, I'm bringing out cook stoves now to these village women. They all cook with open fires. About 40% of the world still cooks with open fire in the room. And the carcinogenics are ungodly. I sleep with them. I know how the women are hacking and coughing every night. So there's been a young college students in India developed a stove that's kind of contained. It uses 50% less wood with a little pipe coming through it, and we're having them made right now in Chennai, India, and they'll be shipped next week, and then we pick them up in Kathmandu and rent the top of a bus and put them all on top of a bus with 2 young men that will ride on the top of the bus for 16 hours to get them to where we'll put them on a Jeep, and then we're going to take them to the rivers, and we'll carry them in. And that's what we're going to do. Within a month, I'll be doing everything I just said. It's all set up. Oh, thank you. Thank you. But clearly, I'm just a regular guy that kind of got into this whole flow, and it can't happen without a team. And I've been blessed to have a nice group, soul group, that's kind of gathered around it. And again, if you can come later on when I have a presentation, I can show you more of these specific things and see where you might want to participate, even if just sharing the story. It helps a lot. And on Facebook, we're on Facebook and keeping in touch with that. But I guess I want to close with saying just a couple key things that I took away from this. This isn't about rich people helping poor kids. They have something we are losing. And there's a preciousness. The children, when I talk with them there, they'll sit and have a conversation with you eye to eye for 45 minutes. When we have a group like this, and it's families together and they're playing music, the grandkids are bringing the elders drink and food without being asked. Magar is 104 years old, and when she walks, it's like this, and she has a whole horseshoe shape of grandkids walking around her. She can't fall. And you see these things, and you go, okay, didn't we all come from there? Not Nepal village, but didn't we all come from a village? Wasn't there something that worked for us there that we might be losing here? And that took me a while to realize that the story was a two-way street. So there's so much here that I want to share. We have a kids group in LA called Kids Care LA. And they're wealthy parents, parents of superstars and so on. And they were aware that their kids had so much and had so much to benefit that they were worried about how they would progress in life when they're 13, 14 years old. So they decided to start a group called Kids Care LA, and they do volunteer work. They go wash wigs for cancer patients, the soup kitchens, the whole deal. Well, they discovered me on Facebook, had me come speak, and now for 6 years they've been sponsoring kids in this village. And they go do bake sales and all this stuff. And it's really affected them because I followed them. It developed this compassion, the understanding, this connection with other people early on, right at that real critical stage. And now now some of the kids, we got a new level coming in, a new group, but now the kids are going to college, and they're different. They're different. They keep in touch with me all the time, and with a child there, and every time I go, I get cards and letters from them. So there's something about that that's kind of important I'm learning. And, Nepal, if you go there, it's a beautiful country. Without a doubt. There's a surface level. You can go as a tourist, and it's very safe, and you can go experience it. But then there's a deeper level, and you have to get outside of Kathmandu to find that. And it's rough. It's real rough, and particularly for the women. Never seen anything like it, and it just changed my life. We love all these different cultures, but there's some things in some of these religions that got to go. In Hinduism, the wife cannot remarry, but the man can. These things are outdated, and the young Nepali, it's not up to me to choose this, the young Nepali living there, going to college, say, we got to change this. So I realize I don't go there to do the work for us. I go represent the young people that want to change the country. I want to stand behind them, because it's going to be Nepali helping Nepali. So you probably don't hear much of the story about Nepal because there's no oil there. If we had oil there, we would be there. It'd be a big deal. But so 5 years ago, a group of women gathered with me, and it was the last day before I was ready to leave the village, and they wanted to talk about the issues of the trafficking there. So we're only about 10 miles from the Indian border, and the border is marked by a cement block, it's like every 10 feet. And so there's India, there's Nepal. It's very easy to take a child and just walk her right over. So this is happening about 900 girls a month in the area the size of West Virginia. To this day, right this second. All right, so I've seen it all on my own. I don't even want to get in my stories, but the bottom line is the women had enough. And they came up, they want to start a group. They want to call themselves the Mothers Society. And they want to start a group, and they wanted my help. Could you help us with uniforms? We want to do performances and teach about trafficking. And so my mother, bless her heart, gave me money. I always had pocket money from Mom. So Mom's $100 went into their first uniforms. They fell in love with me. And now, 6 years later, they're completely funded by the Playing for Change Foundation, every performance. And we have their uniforms, and they're going to other villages. And they basically go into a village, and they start playing music and dancing, and they got nice red uniforms. We bought them, and they're dancing, they're playing the music, and people are out in the fields, and they're hearing something, and what's going on? And they all gather around, and then comes the play. Now that we got you here, now's the play. And the play are the women dressing up as men also, and wearing a hat sideways, sometimes a mustache, and they're the traffickers. And they're coming in, and they're going to reenact all the scenarios that he does. I'm dressed well, I want to marry you, I got a job for you in the carpet factory, here's an advance for the family. All these techniques are all enacted to people who had never heard of such a thing. They didn't know this was even possible. It's really difficult to teach these to the young girls because they're so innocent. There's no stranger danger. Everybody's an uncle. I'm uncle instantly. You would be. You come there, your auntie, uncle, your family right away. So the trust fact, they haven't been taught that. So just the act of having to go out and teach that, it's not something you feel good about, but you have to. So in each village, when we do this education, the Mother Society do, they assign 2 elder women to be the monitors. And now, so when a girl's working out in the field and a man comes out and he has a pitch, we go to the monitors. And I have been there. And the monitors are 2 elder women that come out with a bamboo stick. That's how they come out. And it's as simple as that. They just ask some questions. The first thing don't smell right. Whack, whack, whack. I've seen the guys running, laughing like they got caught smoking in high school. Okay? So that's the plan. That's the Mother Society. Once they're taken, it's so difficult. There's another group I used to work with, Mighty Nepal. And that's a whole nother story. Then you got to go over to India, and you got to dress as Johns. You got to go pay the girls, get in the back room, find out which one's Nepali, gain their trust. You got to go 3 or 4 times, and then you come back with a machine gun, and you have it on your shoulder. You come in and you take the girls out. That's what they do. I lost a friend doing that, and that's what they do every day. So that's a harder job. We thought to focus on the prevention, and there's no question we've stopped many in that area. So out of all the work I've been involved with, that's the biggest surprise to me and the one that's the most rewarding. And I just wanted to share that with you, that there are people out there doing this work, and it's an amazing thing. And we can thank now Playing for Change for funding all this. And I just want to say that they get paid for each performance, and they don't take the money. They created a bank where they microloan to other women who would never be able to borrow money. Some of them want to make incense. They get a rupee, a stick of incense, but you got to buy the materials. It's $15 to buy the materials before you can sell it, and nobody can get that. So now they borrow from the women's group. So my duty, I think, is to go in there as a cheerleader, initiate this, set it all up, and then step back. I document it, do the story, so I can come back and get funding for it. So here later, I guess at 12 o'clock, I'm meeting here? Yeah. If you want to get into more of that, I can kind of cross to where Playing for Change kind of works together. And then, I understand you guys are doing a Playing for Change Day event. I would like to show videos of our music programs. I now have 6 that I administer in Thailand and all over Nepal, at orphanages, in slum areas. And we just went in and we found areas where the kids were really at risk. They were right at that edge of going gangster or going south, and pull them in the music program. Didn't save them all, but saved many. And the music, then they become teachers themselves and so on. So I think I just want to say this. Playing for Change has been the biggest blessing of my life, because I was burned out on the music business. I did the commercial thing. I knew how they cheated artists. I saw the books. We were in meetings. Oh, you're taking the secretary to Hawaii. Let's write this off this album. I was sick of it. And so when I got out of music business, I thought I'd never be involved in music again. Then I meet Mark Johnson, and we're recording music around the world in the streets, people with heart, and I go, oh my God, what a miracle to rediscover the power of music. And I'll close with saying this. Mark Johnson is my hero. He learned early on, when he took the Catholics and Protestants and he made a choir. We've got the Palestinians and Israelis playing music together. We had in the Congo, he met 2 artists that were in warring tribes, and they were both initially fighting each other. And it's an amazing story. They're dear friends of mine now, but they were bitter enemies, and he invited them to come play music and have supper, and they reluctantly agreed. And when he brought them together, they're looking down, they don't want to even look at each other. This is deep, deep stuff. African stuff is deep stuff. I don't pretend to understand it. I just know these people and how far it goes. And they played music. And when it was done, they lost the capacity to fight. And they just recorded their album together last year. And I don't know. To me, that's the power of music. We've been demonstrating this in South America with FARC. There's been many groups now that he's pulling together, previous warring factions that are musicians, play music, and it goes away. So we are on that. And Mark has had the privilege of speaking to the United Nations about it a number of times. So since then, we've been funded by them to produce videos for them, and I'm producing one right now, and we'll play some for you at 12. Thank you.